Previously in Dark Places.
I observed a 7 to 8 foot tall creature standing not more than 10 feet away from me as I shined the light up and seen its red eyes.
I had 3 marbles. There's a red and a yellow and a blue one. And I set them up on top of a big high cliff that no person will be able to see. And I went back a couple weeks later and the blue one was gone. Howdy, welcome to the show, guys. A good show planned for you today. We're going to be talking about some weird cryptid creatures that you may have never heard of, and maybe some that you have heard of. If you've had an experience with the unknown, and you'd like to share your story with us, you can send us an email, indarkplacespod@hotmail.com. We got several news items this week, so let's just jump right into those. Our buddy Stan Gordon sent this one right as I was starting to go into production. So this is hot off the press. May 25th. Thunderbird, huge flying creature sighting reported in the Greensburg, Pennsylvania area again. May 23rd, 2021. This is written by our friend Stan Gordon. A person was stopped at the red light at the corner of Ottoman and Maple in downtown Greensburg, Pennsylvania, on the afternoon of May 23, 2021. That is when the witness noticed something unusual in the sky. She thought at first it was a turkey vulture, but as it flew closer in her direction, she realized how unusual this creature was. The witness contacted me within the hour after her observation and stated, "I was stunned at what I saw." The flying creature was described as huge, with a wingspan estimated to be about 2 car lengths long. The observer mentioned that even though it was high in the sky, it was still huge. The flying behemoth was described as all black in color. It had a defined, elongated head with a sharp pointed beak, and also a pointed protuberance at the back of the head. The body of the creature was featherless and appeared to be covered with leathery skin. The tail was straight and looked similar to a lizard's tail. However, it seemed to curl up at the bottom when the creature made a left turn in flight. The woman could not see its legs that were possibly tucked underneath. What caught the observer's attention was the physical size of the creature and the unusual way that it was flapping its huge wings. It would at times flap the wings hard and then just glide through the sky. She noted that it seemed to flap the wings extremely hard when making a turn. And then she's got a drawing of it. So go to stangordon.info and you can see the drawings and everything. The witness stated to me that the entire experience was almost surreal. As she was driving along, she had it in sight for a few minutes. It was around Depot and Ottoman Street that she saw it turn to the left and fly off toward Route 119 to South Greensburg. The witness has experience working closely with the wildlife of Pennsylvania and was certain that what she saw was not a turkey vulture, crane, or an eagle. It was something that she had never seen before. It was similar, however, to the drawings of a pterosaur, a huge flying creature that has been long extinct and lived during the Mesozoic period. Second report on May 22nd, 2021 in Greensburg. As I was typing up the May 23rd report, my phone rang. The man on the phone called to ask me if I had received any reports of a very large, strange-looking bird in the Greensburg area. I found out that he had also observed a similar huge-winged creature the day before the previous report. The man, who lives in the northern section of Greensburg, was walking his dog that afternoon when he noticed what looked like a huge bird flying in the sky directly overhead. Whatever it was very high up at an estimated altitude of 800 to 1,000 feet and moving toward the west. And he has a drawing of the creature he saw too. The creature was possibly black or dark gray in color. Both the size and how it moved across the sky were unusual. The wingspan of the huge creature was estimated to be between 15 to 20 feet from wingtip to wingtip. The giant bird never flapped or adjusted the pitch of its wings while under observation. It just glided across the sky, continuing to move westward. The wings also looked unusual as they came back to points parallel with its body. See the accompanying sketch. The tail seemed to come to a point. The witness watched the creature for approximately 30 to 45 seconds, and he estimated that it moved about 2 miles or more until he lost sight of it among the trees. The man heard no sound as it passed overhead. The witness stated that he is not sure what he saw flying in the sky that day, and then he has an addendum at the end. There has been a long history of sightings of huge flying creatures that, in the field of cryptozoology, fall under the term Thunderbirds. They have been seen throughout Pennsylvania as well as across the country. For many years, there have been reports of giant bird sightings in the vicinity of Route 119 in South Greensburg. It was about dusk one evening in 2001 when a man was walking in South Greensburg. He heard a sound like flags flapping in a thunderstorm, and he saw a huge dark bird flying about 50 to 60 feet above the traffic on the highway. He estimated the wingspan was between 10 to 15 feet wide. In August of 2010, at a residence just off 119, just down the road from where the 2001 sighting had taken place, 4 people having a barbecue heard a loud swishing sound coming from overhead and watched as a huge dark bird with a massive wingspan flew about 40 feet above them. There have been other such sightings in the same general area, and locals have reported the sound of something large passing through the air nearby and large shadows of what seemed to be a massive bird passing over their vehicles. In April of 2020, during the afternoon, a man reported that he was driving down Pittsburgh Street in Greensburg and was heading toward the business section of town when the shadow of a huge bird passed over his vehicle. He said a vehicle pulled up next to him and asked if he had seen that big bird. In October of 2020, at a location a few miles off the William Penn Highway in Monroeville, which is a populated suburb of Pittsburgh, another witness saw a huge oversized bird that was gray in color and was described as about 5 times the size of a hawk. That person estimated the wingspan to be about 14 to 15 feet from tip to tip. Many mysteries that take place that we don't have answers for. The sightings of the so-called Thunderbirds are just one of them. If you have seen any of these large flying creatures or anything else unusual, you can email Stan at paufo@comcast.net, or you can call him at 724-838-7768. Thank you, Stan Gordon, for sending that information on. Very fascinating reports.
Here's an interesting one. This is dated May 17th. Massive mystery creature remains found on the floor of the Mediterranean. Curious piece of footage from an underwater exploratory vehicle shows a massive remains of a mysterious sea creature that is yet to be identified. Paranormal researcher Deborah Hatswell reportedly received the video from an unnamed oil and gas industry worker back in 2017 and held onto the material until late last month when she posted it to YouTube. The strange discovery occurred as a remote-operated vehicle was conducting a survey on the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea at a depth of approximately 2,700 feet. During its examination of the area, the submarine stumbled up on a puzzling remain which appeared to be measured around 98 feet long and consists largely of very lengthy set of vertebrae. In the video, the operator of the vessel uses a remote control claw to reach out and grasp a piece of the skeleton, but the segment disintegrates into dust just as soon as the slightest bit of pressure is put on it. One might suspect that the remains are simply those of a whale heart swell. Dismissed that particular theory. This video was taken by a professional who works underwater in oceans all across the globe. The whale bones, they had come across them from time to time. She noted that the spine of the whale sports 3 blades, which are spaced 120 degrees apart, which is indigenous with a skeleton in the video. They got a YouTube clip here, but I mean, I wouldn't know the difference between a dragon skeleton or a whale skeleton. I don't know how to distinguish that myself, but
Big old boy, though. 98 feet long.
98 feet. I mean, what is the average size of a whale? I think it best probably be 60 feet, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know. I'm just
That's what I would think. 50 or 60.
speaking off, I'm not an oceanographer, but I don't know what the average size of, or the average length of a whale would be. Let's see. It looks to be the largest would be a humpback, and it goes anywhere from 49 to 52 feet. Sea whale, I don't know, Sei, maybe? I don't know. It says it can get to 60 feet. So none of them is nowhere near almost 100 feet long. Wow, that's intriguing. I mean, but it's hard to tell what, we don't know much about the ocean. And it's hard to tell. That could have been something from prehistoric time, Mesozoic time. I mean, could have been there for millions of years.
Yeah, it could be.
And if I don't want to get too deep in it, but like I believe that there might have been a pre-Adamite world, a world here before Adam and Eve came. Not necessarily humans on it, but I think, and it's just a theory. I mean, it's not like I'm set in stone or nothing, but I think that maybe when the dinosaurs were here was pre-Adam.
Yeah, I kind of go with that too.
I mean, we know they were here. We got the bones to prove it. So, could things have been on this earth? I mean, if you look at the Bible and talk about Genesis, it alludes, just the first couple verses of the Bible alludes to a pre-Adamite world. It doesn't say it is, but I think that in my mind, it kind of sets things in motion for like dinosaurs. And, who knows? This thing may have been there since before Adam was here. I don't know how long it takes for bone to sit, under the ocean and turn to dust when you touch it. But I imagine it's quite lengthy. So, I mean, are you talking 1,000 years? Are you talking, 10 million years? And I would assume that something like that, if it would die and fall to the bottom of the ocean, as long as it's undisturbed, it would retain somewhat of its shape until you touched it, I guess.
Yeah, as cold as it is down there, it would keep it pretty well preserved.
I would think so, yeah. So, I mean, hey, it's hard to tell. Interesting, huh?
A former U.S. Navy pilot said he saw UFOs off the Atlantic coast every day, moving in a way that was impossible for scientists to explain. Former U.S. Navy pilot Ryan Graves told CBS's 60 Minutes that pilots training off the U.S. coast sighted UFOs nearly every day. The show on Sunday explored a series of alleged recent encounters between U.S. military pilots and UFOs, some of which were caught on film and have been released by the Pentagon. One encounter took place in 2014 when Graves and his FA-18F squadron sighted UFOs in restrictive airspace near Virginia Beach in southeastern Virginia. In 2019, U.S. military pilots recorded UFOs in the same area in images obtained by the program. The Pentagon told CBS News that it had not been able to identify the objects. Graves said that such sightings were a nearly daily occurrence. Every day for at least a couple years, he said of the sightings. He discussed an encounter off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida in 2015, captured by one of his pilots on camera. This is a difficult one to explain. You have rotation, you have high altitudes, you have propulsion, right? I don't know. I don't know what it is, frankly, remarks Grace. On the show, several more U.S. military pilots who've witnessed UFOs described the experiences. Lou Elizondo, the former head of a Pentagon project to investigate UFO sightings, said that some objects seemed to defy what was believed to be technologically possible. Imagine a technology that can do 6 to 700 G forces, that can fly at 13,000 miles per hour, that can evade radar, and that can fly through air and water and possibly space. And oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion. No wings, no control surfaces, and yet still can defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity, he said. In April, the U.S. military certified the authenticity of several videos showing encounters between pilots and UFOs that had been published in the media. It followed the declassification last year of several videos showing encounters with UFOs. Following the sightings, the Defense Department last August launched a special task force to investigate them. Its report is scheduled for release in June. Elizondo told the program that after running through all the possibilities, there were some sightings his team had been unable to explain. We're going through our due diligence. Is it some sort of new type of cruise missile technology that China has developed? Is it some sort of high-altitude balloon that's conducting reconnaissance? He said. Ultimately, when you have exhausted all those what-ifs, you're still left with the fact that this is in our airspace and it's real. That's when it becomes compelling, and that's when it becomes problematic.
Well, I got another story here. A hiker in Canada spots Ogopogo.
I heard of him.
It's like a Canadian Loch Ness monster type.
Oh, yeah.
A woman visiting Canada, Okanagan, earlier this week believes that she may have spotted the site's legendary monster Ogopogo. According to the local media report, the intriguing sight occurred on Monday morning as Andrea, who opted not to reveal her last name, was hiking overlooking the area of the massive body of water. Her peaceful commune with nature was shattered when she suddenly noticed a strange disturbance in the lake. She said, I saw something thrashing or something in the water, she recalled. It was huge and it was black and it was moving pretty fast and it had a wake behind it. Andrea went on to note that the creature, whatever it was, submerged itself and then re-emerged, pulling a wake behind it. It then submerged itself again and disappeared. She stressed that there were no boats on the water at the time. I saw birds dive bombing this thing as well. Looking back on the sighting, which she called freaky, Andrea is bewildered by the whole experience, musing that there was something weird going on at the lake this morning. Regarding what the oddity could have been, although she concealed it that it may have been a sturgeon, the sheer size of the animal seemed to make her question that assessment. And if you scroll on down, they've got a picture. Of course, it's 300 yards away, and it just looks like something going across the water with a wake behind it. But there's so many weird things that go on, whether it be, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or Loch Ness Monster, Ogopogo. I mean, all the way down to, paranormal things.
I don't know why in the world I forgot this. I had a story planned out from last week when we were talking about Bigfoot. I was talking on the Terry and Lovelace episode. I was telling Terry that I get people coming in the store all the time where I work at, and they tell me they saw stuff. And on April 6th, there was a guy right up the road from me, 3 or 4 houses, saw Bigfoot. I had been saving the story, going to talk about it on a Bigfoot episode, and I forgot all about it. So he lives like 2 houses up from me where the Bigfoot was, and then the guy that saw it was like 4 houses up from me. he was out on his porch on April 6th in the nighttime, and he saw two red eyes right at the tree line staring down at him. And he saw it like the whole time he was out on his porch, and it started freaking him out. He went back in the house, but he never did get a good look at what the creature was because it was standing in the shadows right at the tree line. He could just see two big red eyes staring down at him.
Well, that's the typical report thing. The red eyes. It's either red or yellow, but most of the time they're red, and they're very, I guess, intense red.
I heard about it on April the 8th, a couple days later, and it rained on April the 8th. So if there was any kind of tracks there, I would have been able to walk up to see the tracks on the 7th on my day off, and it would have been perfect. But I didn't know about it until the 8th, and it had been raining all day. So I missed that one.
Yeah, rain has a tendency to screw with everything.
Where I live, I'm right on the mountain from where I've heard these weird knocks and things at pretty much since 1990. And it's right here behind my house, that mountain is. And one night on April the 21st, my wife was hearing some knocks on the back of our house.
Oh, wow.
And she messaged me, telling me to come home, and I didn't even know until I'd already got home. She was talking about being scared for me to come home. She was hearing a knocking on the back of the house. And we got a fence out there, no crazy neighbors, nothing would have been in the yard. And I went out and looked around in the yard and didn't see no tracks or nothing out there. So it's hard to tell what she heard, but there's a little creek there between me and the mountain. So just a hop and a skip, that Bigfoot could have been right here in my yard and I wouldn't even know it.
Wow. I mean, it's kind of creepy when you know that, it's one thing to see something from a distance or having even an up-close encounter. But to me, those are scary enough. But if you've got one, beating on the side of your house or walking on your porch or looking in your window, to me, that's like, dude, you're in my personal space now. Now it's getting serious now. Since I moved away from my old house, which was kind of back into the woods a little bit. See, I used to sit on the porch quite a bit. I'd just sit out there. My wife would watch her silly TV shows, and I'd go out on the porch and listen to the radio or ball games or pick on my guitar or whatever. And, every now and then I'd hear something up there up in the hills there, and I'd always kind of just cock my head a little bit and say, wonder what that is, or haven't heard that noise before. And since I live a little closer to town now, which I hate it. I don't like it at all. I kind of miss that. And I always had a good time sitting on the porch, even though I was by myself, and maybe listen to an old Coast to Coast show or maybe a podcast of somebody. I miss that.
One of our loyal listeners told me a story a couple weeks ago that I thought was pretty cool. I have another creature here in this holler where I live. He saw a wampus cat appear a couple years ago. Him and his wife were going out picking blackberries. They were on their side by side going up the holler, and there was a big black panther looking thing just stretched out across the road. And as they got closer up to it, he started to get his phone out and take a picture of it, and it took off. He said he saw it 2 times up in here. He saw it a couple years before that too. Same situation, picking blackberries.
Well, especially from this area, when you say wampus cat, that just means something big. So from that, I'm assuming, I don't really know. I don't think I've ever seen a wampus cat, but I'm assuming it's just one big, huge cat.
He said it was stretched out pretty much across the entire dirt road up here, about wide enough for a car to fit through. I guess from the tip of its tail to its head, it is stretched pretty well across it. I hear a lot of them on these shows and stuff I listen to, reports of like Black Panthers and stuff that are not supposed to be in areas where they're reported at.
When I was a kid, my stepdad always said that he saw a Black Panther where we used to hunt at. And he always said that it was back there. But I never had any encounters with it. Now, about 10 years ago, a friend of mine and I went up to a place in Marietta, Ohio, reclaimed strip mine land up there that Ohio Power had. And I come across some strange big cat looking tracks up there that were, it looked like a cat to me, but it could have been just a big coyote, but it looked more cat-like to me than it did a canine. And it was probably, I was going to say it was as big as my hand. Wow. Because it was a good imprint in the mud. There were several of them. And when I first seen it, I was like, holy crap, that's a big cat. And it never even really dawned on me of it being like maybe a cougar or a Black Panther. I just was like, that's got to be like a huge bobcat or something. But it was probably the size of my hand. Now, I never did see it or hear anything, but it just, as I was walking up this trail, I just happened to look down. It was early morning. The dude still had everything kind of soft, and the track looks like it had probably been there maybe 3 or 4 days. But when I just noticed it, like, holy crap, that's huge. In fact, I used to have pictures of it. I don't remember what I did with them, because I laid a shotgun shell down beside it and took a picture, and it was probably, well, you figure just a regular shotgun shell is 2 3/4 inches. And this thing was probably another 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches longer than that shotgun shell. Because, when I first seen it, I stopped and took a step back and went, holy crap, that's a big cat print.
There's a woman I used to work with. She's been off on leave for like 6 months now, so we're assuming she's just not coming back. But she was coming home from work one night. She lives over toward Matewan, and said that she saw a bear crossing the road up on its back legs the night before whenever she was going home from work. I said, are you sure it was a bear or was that a Bigfoot? She said, no, it's a bear. You don't see bears walking around on their back legs very often. No,
and when you do, they don't really walk that far.
They just stumble around. Yeah, I'm just wondering, that's really what she saw. Maybe her headlights didn't hit it just right. She just assumed it was a bear. Didn't see its face and stuff. I wonder.
Well, I mean, see, that's what I say when people, the first thing they want to, during a Bigfoot sightings, it's, well, it's a bear. Well, no, I mean, not all of them are bears, and that's a good example. She knew exactly what it was. You were going to, what was that book you was talking about you had?
Oh, yeah,
about the folklore and legends and things.
Yeah, that's got some pretty neat stuff in that.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of that.
The Abaga Gucci is a creature resembling a cross between an owl, a fox, and a deer.
It looks pretty weird.
It is indigenous to Costa Rica, where people refer to it as a dry land piranha because it will eat anything, including creatures far larger than itself, such as horses and cows. If cornered, an Abaga Gucci will consume itself in a devilish whirlwind rather than allow itself to be captured. They mate only once every 6.5 years. The creature is very likely to be a hoax, so that's kind of bad news. However, there's actual reports of the creature that might differentiate it from more legitimate hoaxes as a more validated cryptid. In 1999, in an ill-considered move, the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources introduced 13 baby Abaga Guccis from Costa Rica into West Virginia in order to keep down the population of overpopulated predators such as coyotes and rattlesnakes. But soon, as reported by Jim Wilson of the Webster Echo in 2001, Abaga Gucci itself multiplied out of control and began attacking livestock. Soon after Wilson's article appeared, sightings of the Abaga Gucci began occurring throughout the region. Some farmers began carrying shotguns in order to protect their livestock. Concerned parents would walk their kids to the school bus to make sure they were safe. And one man reported that he had accidentally run over an Abaga Gucci.
Very muscular and found in Upshur County, West Virginia.
Upshur County. Well, I'm trying to think where that's at. That would be...
My dad had some hunting trips up there. I think it's probably like an hour north of Charleston or something, if I'm not mistaken.
I was thinking it was more north.
That made me think. I've got another story of my dad's that I've been meaning to talk about on here that I think is probably Bigfoot related. Him and his coon hunting buddy were up on this mountain where I hear the Bigfoot stuff all the time. Back around that same time period, 1990, 92, somewhere around through there. And they were up there one night coon hunting. And they were up on the top, up on the ridge, old gas company road up there. And they were walking along it, waiting for the dogs to start barking. And all of a sudden, over the other side of the ridge from them, 6 or 8, I think he said about 6, Black Hawk helicopters just came up over top of the ridge, right over the top of them on the trees, with spotlights blaring and everything. And he could see army men sitting like on the doors, pointing their lights down at the ground at them. And they'd turn around, they hightailed it out of there, it freaked them out.
Well, yeah.
And every time I've told that story to anybody, they say they're probably looking for marijuana plants. But there are going to be 6 to 8 Black Hawk helicopters out in the middle of the night like that. It don't seem right. Maybe one. You might see one out looking for marijuana plants, but they're not going to be 6 or 8 of them just all bunched up with spotlights blaring. I wonder if he was looking for a Bigfoot up there.
Well, I've got this theory that the government will never admit to a Bigfoot unless one is actually laid out on a slab in front of them. The reason being, if one is discovered, that would make it a extinct species, or nearly extinct species. If the first thing that they do when there's an extinct or near extinct species is preserve the habitat, well, nobody really knows how big or wide a habitat is for a Sasquatch. So the first thing that's going to suffer is the lumber companies. And if you go shutting down the lumber companies and loggers and such, one, look at the income that particular state's going to lose, a particular county. Not only is that going to happen, it's going to trickle down into what does it take to run those machines? Well, it takes diesel fuel. So the local truck stop or the local stop for diesel is going to suffer. Somebody's got to feed these cats, so they're going to miss out on that kind of money. And it's just going to trickle down. Plus, how much money in taxes to the states, particular states, whatever it is, get from those transactions? And they're not going to be willing to give that up. That's just my own personal theory.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I've been back when me and Joe was doing the Awakening radio show. We did a couple shows on what was called the Straw Man. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Straw Man.
That seems familiar. I remember that.
It's basically when you are born, you get your Social Security number. Well, your Social Security number is traded on the stock market. Believe it or not, you could look this up. I couldn't believe it myself, but you are a commodity that is traded on the stock market. It's basically how much you are going to be worth in your lifetime. That's how they trade it. Say if you live to be an average 70, is that what it is, 72 point whatever years, they look at you at an average job and what you're going to make throughout your life. And the U.S. government trades you as a commodity on the U.S. stock, I don't know, on the stock market. I don't know if it's worldwide but yeah, it's pretty cool. But there's ways to, if you get the right lawyer and can go against the government, there's only been a handful of people to ever do it, that you can reclaim that money. And I mean, we're generally talking, a couple $100,000, but you're only allowed to use it to pay off your debt. But you can pay off your house, you can pay off your cars, any student loan debt, anything that's debt related. You can't just get a check and they deposit, X amount of dollars in your checking account. But everybody needs to know about this. I had no idea that my social security number had been traded on the stock market, but it is actually a real thing and it's out there. I'm actually on this website right now. It says Meet Your Straw Man, the roadmap to understanding the present legal status of Americans. The head of it says, the twin you never knew you had. As a child, you've had an imaginary friend. You may be surprised to learn that the evidence exists that you have a make-believe twin from the time your mother and father permitted a birth certificate to be filed for you. This make-believe friend is not real, but artificial. It is a straw man, an artificial entity that has a name very similar to yours. A third party who is put up in the name only to take part in this transaction. The term is also used as commercial property. Context within a transfer is made to a party, the straw man, simply for purpose of re-transferring to the transferor in order to accomplish some purpose not otherwise permitted. So it goes to say, in layman's terms, what is a straw man? The straw man is an artificial person that the straw man was created by law shortly after you were born via registration of the application for your birth certificate. The name for your straw man is your name in all capital letters. You will notice that inscription on your birth certificate is your name in all capital letters. But it's this website is just a wealth of information of what it is, how you're traded on the stock market, how this all breaks down. And I think if anybody has a little bit of time on their hands and starts reading this, they're going to be shocked to know that our government regards us as commodity. It's not surprising, but it's shocking that it really happens. But the more shocking thing about it is that people don't know about it.
That's pretty twisted.
Oh, yeah.
What is that website?
It is the Redemption Service.
I'll put a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah.
Get people to check that out. That's pretty wild.
It actually goes down into understanding the Illuminati, how this all works with the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and all that stuff. Yeah, it really goes. I mean, it's one of them websites that you're going to need a few hours to actually go through. It's got a ton of information in it.
I've been going through bits and pieces of that one you sent me about the Freemasons.
Oh, yeah.
That thing's like 5 hours long. I had listened to probably a couple hours of it whenever you sent it to me. I had listened to it, I think, like the day before that or something. That's freaky. So
It is very freaky.
I've been taking little chunks of it at a time. That's some crazy stuff. Pretty much any celebrity or musician or anybody you know has ties back to the Freemasons.
Yes.
These are those who we admire, trust. And these are those who have perverted our culture with one hand, the hidden hand, while upholding it with the other hand. So you can never call them out, because they run charities, nursing homes, and children's hospitals in the open, while they propagate smut, violence, debt, and of course atheism in secret. While a plethora of everyday distractions are endlessly supplied to us through entertainment and news, plowing through our lives. That's political Freemasonry, politicizing everything, including entertainment.
And it gets, I mean, what was it that time when Joe was on the show there? He was talking about the 33rd degree Masons, which is where I guess, and then, I mean, I don't know, it's just speculation. Or supposedly, like Walt Disney and the Rothschilds and all them guys are 33rd degree Masons. That's where things get scary.
Yeah, it's pretty much no holds barred territory there, going straight into Satanism.
Yes.
John F. Kennedy was brutally assassinated after he attempted to inform us that we are opposed around the world by a monolithic conspiracy. Did he know that Lucifer was the god of Freemasonry? I don't know. The Grand Master of my lodge, who was the mayor of the city, was a 32nd degree Freemason. That's one short of the top, one short of the true beginning of the secret religion, and he had no idea what Freemasonry really was. After 42 years in the lodge, they never invited him into the 33rd degree initiation because he couldn't see past the Christian trappings.
Altian Childs, he was the X Factor winner in Australia in 2010.
They pretty much initiated him into that whole scene. So he's blowing the whistle. It's pretty cool stuff to check out too for the listeners out there.
Well, there's going down a rabbit hole. If you believe in, the Illuminati and the goal to be one world government, one world religion, and all that, all you got to do is look up satanic symbolism. The Freemasons are ate up with it. But it's not just them. Look at your everyday life. And there are satanic symbols in everything.
I see that stuff all the time in pretty much any movie I watch or anything now. I'm just always on the lookout for it. I've heard about it over the years, digging through the rabbit hole, and it's kind of hard to not see now at this point. It sticks out like a sore thumb. You recognize it in these movies and things.
Well, that's the thing. If you watch movies, I always pay attention to the background. You'll see things in the background that they're trying to hide in plain sight. We were watching a show on Nickelodeon when one of my grandkids was younger, and there was these two kids that were in a school, and they were talking back and forth, just doing normal banter back and forth for the show. But in the background on a chalkboard, this is no lie, it said Illuminati on it. If you've noticed, all of the celebrities, mostly singers, if you look at them, sometimes they'll put their hands together and make a triangle, and they'll look through that with one eye. I mean, come on. I know what that rapper Jay-Z and all them people that he hangs out with, they do that a lot. Anytime you see somebody on a magazine cover and they have one eye covered, or they're making the OK symbol, looking through it, that's all Illuminati satanic symbolism.
That dude in the video went through hundreds of different celebrities doing that. He put some work into that video. He had all these pictures from magazine covers and stuff.
And it's in plain sight. That's the scary thing. And I don't know if you or anybody else out there is a believer in Pizzagate.
Oh yeah, it's crazy there.
Just the symbolism of a a piece of pizza has meaning in the satanic world of child sex trade and everything else. It's all part of, I don't want to start naming names, but Jose Padilla comes to mind. He was in it up to his armpits. They basically overlooked it because they were all in on it too. And we can go as far as the Epstein thing. In their public record, you can look at the flight manifest who was going to Epstein Island. And it's got everybody from the Clintons, the Gates, all these people who were actors and singers. Now, just because they were there don't mean they were partaking in that nefarious acts, I guess. But just to be associated with that, and if you even knew it was going on, it's straight up satanic.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big coincidence they would be going there and just on a little business trip or whatever. So they knew.
Oh yeah, I mean, it would never stand up in a court of law, but it's. I mean, if you're doing, hanging out with those type of people, you know what's going on. But somebody had there was a Mickey Mouse coffee mug, and on the inside, it said Mickey. And it was spelled, how they've spelled, written like in cursive, how they write Mickey, real fancy. They had a cup of coffee, and they had drank it down just below that word Mickey. And the reflection of it in the coffee said wicked. So, it may just be 100% coincidence, but I found it kind of weird. I think Walt Disney is one of the most satanic companies in the world with their hidden messages and their satanic symbols through their movies and different things. But I thought it was ironic that, to look at this, it says Mickey right side up, but then the reflection upside down, it said wicked.
Oh, Mickey is not as innocent as he lets on, I don't believe.
No.
Some pretty twisted stuff in the world of Disney.
And that brings us to our brand new segment this week, The Week in Woke.
You see the one about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? They're going to cancel that now because Snow White did not give her consent to kiss the prince at the end of it.
Dear Lord. What?
There'll be no more Snow White for the kids.
The political correctness that's going on is absolutely killing this country from within. When I see 10-year-old kids trying to tell me where I should play them on the ball field because that's where their dad or their mom says they should play, all I can tell them is their mom and their dad need to take the time and coach you then. Because I'm putting you where I want you, where I think you're the best for the team. And sometimes that's on the bench. Guess what? Sitting on the bench happens in life sometimes. But if I put you on the bench, I want you to be the best bench sitter I got. I want you rooting your team on. But we don't teach kids that. We teach them if you're on the bench, you're no good. Or the coach don't like you. That's not the case at all. I promise you, if I got a third baseman who's made 6 errors and has struck out 4 times in the game, he's probably sitting the bench the next game. That's life. Deal with it. Fix it. Practice. Do better. And I promise you, if you take that with you in your adulthood, in your work life, in your family life, things will be so much better. Don't count on mom and dad to tell you how great you were. That kills me.
Well, folks, that's about all we're going to talk about this week. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we appreciate your positive feedback. Leave a review on iTunes or any of that good stuff. Try to help the show grow. You can share the show with your friends on Facebook. We don't care. Just spread the word. If you've had a sighting or encounter with an unknown cryptid or any of that cool kind of stuff, send us an email, indarkplacespod@hotmail.com. Thanks for listening, and God bless you. See you next week.
See ya.